Today in this video, we're going to be breaking down my group's 16 Algethar that we completed in the first week. Now, this run was pretty insane. At the time of completing it, it was US seconds. I don't know what the world ranking was. I think it was like 30. But we are running Brewmaster, Resto Shaman, Double Warrior, Sub Rogue. I believe we had one Fury, one Arms. And so in this video, I'm just going to like dissect what we do, how we handle polls, what we did right, what we did wrong. But this was an absolute we were so locked in for this run, so I was pretty happy with our overall performance. Anyways, let's just get into it. So I'll leave my talents linked down below. I might also show them on screen briefly while I'm running here. I'm going to be grabbing the critical strike buff from the courtyard, my Dragonflight pin. I think it's from the Black Dragonflight. So you can grab Mastery, Crit, or Verse. It doesn't really matter in my opinion. I'm going to grab Crit because I think Crit really helps out with the first pull with Celestial Fortune healing. And now this pull is going to be very specific in how we execute it because it is dangerous. Now, I'm going to have a separate video talking about it, but let's break it down here. So what I'm doing is I'm following this first pack of Skitterflies in, being careful not to pull them. I'm then going to be committing a Black Ox statue where I'm then going to grab the Far Vile Lasher, and we're going to just kind of be waiting for all of these to get grouped up. Now, the quicker we can get these grouped up, the better, because we are really watching out on the Tank Buster. I'm not really focused on my rotation right now, so the first bleed just went out. The second bleed just got applied as well, and then here's the third final cast from the third Lasher, and now when there's 6 seconds remaining, I'm going to kite out for about 3 seconds because that's how long the cast time is. The Vile Lasher's melee, or like their Tank Buster bleed, has a 100 yards range. Said that wrong. But it won't start casting until they are in melee range of the tank. So if you kite it out just for 3 seconds, 2 seconds, you're going to be able to drop that bleed regularly. Now, once the pack starts to kind of perish, I'm then going to chain in the second set of Skitterflies, and this is going to lend itself to us being able to continue hitting mobs once the Lashers do end up dying. With just 2 Lashers left, I should be able to drop the bleed here and only go to 2 stacks now. So the pull is going to be a little bit safer, but we're going to have a lot less healing and a lot less brew recovery because there's not all those tiny little Lashers because we've killed all of them off. Now, this pull is also extremely doable with Lust if you have big dick DPS. Unfortunately, our composition doesn't really lend itself to having like the most insane AoE damage, like playing with like a Dusterlock or a Frost Mage or maybe even a Ret Paladin. There are some classes that just do way more AoE and more sustained, but we made it work. So I'm going to have a separate video. I'll link it on screen that breaks down exactly step by step on how to drop those Lashers, but that's the gist of it. Now, in terms of cooldown usage in that pull, I did commit Black Ox first. Once that faded, I waited a little bit, then used Fortifying Brew. And then after that, we did commit the Link as an external, I guess. But then at that point, the first Lasher died, so it ended up being okay. All right, now we're on the Overgrown Ancient. This boss is pretty simple, I think. The changes that they made over the course of like the beta cycle and testing, this is probably the only boss in this dungeon that I think the rework to it actually feels pretty good. I also don't mind Vexamus. I kind of shit on Vexamus a lot, but I do like the third or technically first boss of this instance as well. When you're doing this fight, just always make sure you're trying to keep the Lashers stacked by staying as a clumped group, and then as a tank, try to move the boss into the center of those like dormant Lashers, just so your group can get good cleave and they die quickly. We're going to be executing this branch pretty fast. We kind of dispatch that insanely quick. And then we're going to be sitting in the Abundant Circle. Now, based on your single target DPS, the Abundant Circle might not appear right away. Like you might take a second for it to die, and then that you have to dodge while that Abundant Circle is active. So what I recommend doing is moving towards the edge of that Abundant Circle and then following it to the left or the right, whichever way your group decides to move, and that's how you would handle that. I normally will dispel myself with Detox right before the Bark Breaker Tank Buster when the ads are active, and then this fight is just rinse and repeat. We are very fortunate that Arms Warriors does insane AoE damage, and so we are able to kind of like chew through these ads really quickly. If the ads die during or right before the Bark Breaker, that's like perfect timing. Anyways, the Vile Branch, or the Ancient Branch, comes out, and then we get a nice set focus to it. So someone asked in my last video how I'm marking things so quickly, like with triangle. It's part of my set focus macro. So I have decided that I'm going to mark things with triangle that I plan on kicking, and it's baked into my set focus macro. So I have a keybind for it. I think it's Shift X is what I hit to mark. One other thing that you might notice is I do have an ox statue down. You can kind of see it to the right-hand side of the boss. I have that placed there, so whenever the ads do spawn, I can AoE taunt the ads, so my melee, or just group in general, don't get hit immediately. Like, I'll have a second to, like, get that AoE threat on them, just in case, like, I don't have a Keg Smash charge or something like that. And, yeah, that fight's just super, super rinse and repeat. Nothing crazy. And then the last branch is gonna come out here. When you're this close to a kill, you can technically CC this. Not that it matters. I landed a para, but it broke because of Acid Rain and I'm sure some, like, incidental cleave. And then the boss goes down. So, not a bad start. So, moving up to this thing, I tried dismounting here. And then when I landed, it sent me back immediately, which was super frustrating. And so, definitely lost some time here, which is not fun. Because you definitely want to get this Guardian Sentry obviously pulled. This is a tight dungeon timer. So I like to pull him into a corner, one of the 4 corner pillars. Now, unfortunately, we are playing with a full melee comp, so the chances that a tornado spawns in melee is pretty high. We're all going to go D-stance here and just, like, take this. So Die by the Sword gets committed along with defensive stance from Turbo, and Nama popped Cloak there, and everyone just stands in to get full uptime on this guy. Now, you can also line of sight. You don't have to run all the way out of his circle, so you just have to dip behind one of the pillars if you want to stay closer as, like, a melee. As tornadoes spawn, I'm rotating from pillar to pillar to pillar to make sure that my melee have room, that they're not going to get stunned here. So here comes the second Expel. We're all going to stack in the corner. We're going to pop some defensives, feint, defensive stance, and everyone should be good. I think actually Nama, I think, might have lined there just to be safe. Not a big deal. He is also pumping some big single target damage here. Unfortunately, Arms and Fury's single target damage is not super crazy. Fury Warrior tends to be really good in, like, the mid-size pulls, and Arms tends to be good in everything above 5. So single target damage kind of dookie. All right, and now that that guy is dead, we are heading off to the next area. Now, the idea for our group is that we want to have Lust happening for the second goal, which will be the fire goal, and that's where we're going to commit Lust to do, like, a big burn. Unfortunately, there's no way to really speed up this area. Now, surprisingly, this first pack of Eagles, despite them all being the smaller Eagles, is probably the most dangerous for tanks because the bleeds can actually stack up really quickly. Now, luckily, I'm a dodge-based tank, so I don't notice the bleeds as much. But something like a Prot Warrior might end up getting, like, up to 11 stacks, 12 stacks, 13 stacks of the bleed, and that could end up killing them. Once that pack is totally, vaporized, the next pack will come in. I try to place out an Ox Statue, though Ox Statue ends up not being that effective in this area. What I recommend doing is trying to bank, like, a Keg Smash for when those Eagles are flying over, so you can throw a Keg up into the air at the Eagles, doing splash damage and getting threat. Obviously, you don't want anyone getting meleeed by these guys. The Alpha Eagles in this area also do an Enrage, so pressure points is pretty good in this dungeon, not just for this pull, but also back during the Lasher pull on these Skitterflies. So I recommend running pressure points in here if you have it. I don't remember if I'm running it or not. I believe I am in this run, actually. So as you can see, I threw a keg up, but it happened to miss every other mob for some reason, and because we love Keg Smash. And then this pull is probably the easiest, but does take the longest just because there are 2 Alpha Eagles in here, so you have 2 priority targets you have to kill. Raging Screech does some AoE damage, and it buffs all of the mobs. It enrages them. So this is when pressure points is really good to use. When you use paralysis on a mob that has multiple enrage effects, it removes all of them, not just one. And so you want to wait for both casts to go off before you send your paralysis. And there's not much to it. So this dungeon, while we have some time waiting for, like, these mobs to die, I fucking hate this place. I think they ruined this dungeon. I think the first area, adding the Tank Buster, like, the fun thing about Algeth'ar Academy was that you were able to pull all of these Lashers and just live, and everyone got to have fun doing that first pull. And adding the Tank Buster has added, like, this little cringe element of, like, a DPS check that a lot of groups struggle with. Like, that is the most common thing I've been hearing so far this week, is that groups are just really struggling with that first pull. And I think that they, like, making it so you can't LOS the, like, Ravagers in the next area really suck. And then the Echo Knights at the end, which I'll get to later. Anyways, we're now on the boss, so let's talk about this. Savage Peck is a pretty nasty tank buster. I do put a little bit of stock into my healer, just keeping me healthy here. I don't really think about, like, using defensives to each one. I try to have Celestial Infusion up as often as I possibly can. The tank buster doesn't hit hard up front. The bleed adds this weird double diving effect because you're taking damage from your stagger and you're taking damage from the dots. So there's, like, that weird element there. But cycling through Fortifying Brew whenever you feel like using it. And then obviously making sure you have Celestial Infusion up often is going to help alleviate that pain point. So this boss is definitely like a slow whittle down. What we end up doing first as our group is that we actually go to the wind goal first. And by throwing it in the wind goal first, it's going to give us haste. We think, or at least I think, that the wind is a little bit easier to deal with. And then it's going to allow us to have like a nice big execute lust burn with the fire goal a little bit later on. When you use the wind goal, make sure you're picking up one of these orbs. It prevents you from getting pushed for a set duration. So the duration of your debuff that I currently have, it has 10 seconds left. It starts at 20, but it starts when the orbs land. So if you wait 5 seconds to pick it up, you only have 15 seconds of the debuff. If you wait 15 seconds to pick it up, you only have 5 seconds. And so the debuff duration is static based on when the orbs land, not whenever you decide to pick it up. So you can't like delay it and then pick it up late and then extend it out, if that kind of makes sense. And you also can't pick up multiple. Once you touch one, it's yours and that's it. So now that haste buff was able to help us push him from 75 down to 45, where the next intermission is going to happen. So he's about to hit there. I'm trying to get in position near the X marker, but not too close, because I want to be able to pick up orbs quickly, but I also want our DPS not to have to like chase the bird around while, well, I guess he doesn't really move. Like I want them to be able to just like plant while I throw the orbs. So on the first goal, my healer does 2 of them. On this goal, I ended up doing 2 of them. I don't know if that'll be the play going forward. Normally, we were kind of saying that the healer should just get 2 of the orbs, and I'd get 1. But, you know, whichever ends up working. So here we commit Lust. I pop the Black Ox. I'm going into, like, just Keg, Breath, and then Black Ox, Keg, Tiger Palm. Like, you just do your normal rotation in that case. And then I noticed that there's a lot of tornadoes on the far side. So what I ended up doing here, and I calmed it to my group, I was like, hey, I'm just going to move him over here. Just be ready for that movement after the stun ends. The tornadoes are super RNG. I feel like they might gravitate towards players. I don't know how it's worded or how it's coded. So just keep an eye out for them as a melee, as a range. Obviously, as a tank, if you're watching them, you can position the boss differently to try to give your group room. But there's only so much you can do. So I see that there's one in melee, but I'm just going to plant here. The boss is at 10%. So this fight gets really dangerous at the end, and that's why we like to commit Lust during the damage burn, just to get him down as quick as possible, so we spend the least amount of time in this phase. If we did the damage burn earlier, we wouldn't have Lust to line up for it. There is alternative routes where you actually pull a little bit more trash before coming to Crawth and then getting Lust on the first burn, but I feel like it's not super great because people send their CDs and with Lust, and if you do his damage faster, like if you send all your CDs when he's at 75% health, he'll be in the back half of the fight longer because everyone's out of CDs. Also, it's criminal that that debuff stays. We almost had lost turbo there, and if we lost turbo, I think we would have maybe possibly failed this key because it was a pretty close timer. Moving into this area, now this is going to be one of those, this is going to be a video where this route is very specific to having a rogue. And so from this point onwards, what I'm doing is based on doing a skip later. There is an alternative route. Maybe I'll leave my alternative routes linked down below. So, yeah. So something to note about the Ravager. The Ravager always targets the furthest player. So generally what we like to try to do, we didn't do it correctly there, but I think we do it correctly the rest of the time, is if I'm the furthest player away as the tank, the leap will always go on me, and there's not a ton of tank damage. So here's that vicious ambush. It's going to go on me. I'm going to get knocked back. And then the frontal always generally faces the tank. Sometimes it bugs out if it goes on the tank, and when the boss hits, it'll like go to the side. So just don't be in the frontal, obviously. And then as this Ravager dies, we're going to be pulling the next Ravager. Now, people might be thinking, why the fuck are you pulling so many Ravagers? We're going to be doing a Shroud Skip at the very end of the dungeon. That's going to allow us to skip most of the back half trash. And so getting Ravagers here is really good. And having a full melee comp means that generally everyone's going to be in melee. And as long as everyone's inside of the hitbox of the Ravager, inside that red reticle that's on the ground, and I'm outside of that red reticle, it should always target me. Therefore, this mob is essentially just, I don't want to call it like free, but it's essentially just like, I mean, it's not doing anything outside of being just like a beefy target for people to hit and cleave off of. So same thing here. I'm just like slowly backing up. Every time it's about to come out, it happens about 10 seconds after every Rift Breath. If I just keep backing up slowly, and my group stays inside of that hitbox, like I said before, it's always going to go on me, and then I can just reposition as often as possible. Also, keeping it in melee is really good. Here's the last jump. I'm going to actually just run ahead and have it leap at me. Now, I do have to be a little careful on that roll there. Going into battle axes with double mana fiend on top of a vicious ambush all at the same time can be quite deadly if I wasn't prepared. But I was fairly healthy there. One thing I'm noticing is I'm sitting on Black Oxbur a lot. I feel like I could hit it more aggressively. But it is what it is. I will make note and use that going forward. So then these 4 mobs, we're kind of just like walking down the bridge. We're going to pull some of the little foragers in. Those are like the tinier worms. They do leap at random players, so the damage can be a little dangerous, but not enough to kill anyone. And when you're running in like a double plate group, our warriors are going to be fairly tanky. They have a lot of stamina, and obviously wearing plate means that they're impervious to a lot of like heavy physical hits. So we're just walking with this pack now. I'm letting my group hit that while I set this up. We're grabbing the right side pack. I am CCing out one of the textbooks because I don't really want to deal with more than 2 at a time, even though I could probably just pull it in and just commit a CC to it. The idea here is that we really, really want to keep an eye out for the Corrupted Mana Fiend's Surge cast. That's what's going to end up killing people here. The dot that's on players just spread out. It's healable. I'm going to get a Ring of Peace there because we didn't seem like we weren't about to get a kick, and I don't want anyone to die. It's on turbo. I think we might be able to get a Spiral Fleck. We do commit the Shockwave there. The Battle Axes can be dangerous, but as long as you're cycling through your defenses, right now I have my Black Ox up. Before the Black Ox, I did have Fortifying Brew rolling, and so as long as you're chaining your cooldowns like that, this pull ends up being pretty okay. As the Battle Axes start to get whittled down, I end up committing in and going into the next pack, the last pack in this room that'll help spawn RP for the boss. And there, I do have to be a little cautious because the Battle Axes do pack a punch on their arcane hits. And then finally, we're going to be rolling over, and I'm going to be trying to oops, get a kick there, and then walking it back to the Mana Fiend. That was a really good kidney. I don't know. It's like really difficult because I'm not tracking things like Spiral Fleck anymore because Omni CD, I believe, doesn't work. And I don't know if there's any other easy way to do that. Generally, if like Spiral Fleck is active and it's going on a warrior, normally more often than not, you can let cast go off because it's free damage. But in this case, we were just like kicking and locking things down because if you were watching stream, we had failed this dungeon probably like 4 or 5 times on stream between 15s. I think it was mostly just 15s and 16s, but it's been a show. So getting this dungeon done and timed felt so good. Lastly, we pulled in this Ravager. Now, the nice thing about this is that we're now basically going to be able to do trash while we wait for the boss to spawn. We do have 1 textbook in the pull. It's at about 4% health, and now it's dead. So now the boss RP is going to start. Now, it does take a little while to spawn this guy, which is really obnoxious. And that's why we're pulling this Ravager now, to make sure that we are able to continue being efficient with our every second we have in here to get things done. Now, like I said before, Ravagers are really obnoxious. Most routes try to avoid them. We're going to be pulling extra because, again, we think it's free for our composition, and we're going to be able to do a nice Shroud skip later because we do think if we had to pick between a Ravager and an Echo Knight, I think we prefer the Ravager because Echo Knights are cringe. Ravager goes down, 2 Forgers still up, but we're going to go into boss. Our healer's at half mana, but Chicken's going to make it work. He's insanely good. And so this boss is pretty repetitive. There's not much to do. It used to be a little bit more RNG. It can become chaotic if you let any orbs touch the boss because he does things based off of his like energy bar or mana bar. And when orbs connect with him, he gains energy/mana. Also, you cannot dispel the soak anymore. So yeah, that is something else to kind of keep in mind. So as a tank, I think the most I'll ever go is like 6 or 7. Oh god, did I just say the fuck, dude? Edit that out. I normally try to soak like 6. It's a little dangerous. Like you need to make sure like you have a defensive up if you're soaking them like back to back to back. So sometimes I'll try to soak a bunch on one set. Sometimes I'll try to soak like not that many. It kind of depends. Honestly, a person soaking 1 or 2 as a DPS normally is really, really safe. You'll often notice that Chicken, our healer, is also grabbing 2 at a time. He feels confident in his ability to keep himself safe versus like using defensives and also through like leech and obviously being the healer. Right here, I'm going to try to actually scoop up a bunch if I can. I kind of messed up my movement there, but it's a-okay. So as you can see, we're at 5 stacks. And also, these like mana bombs, notice how our DPS aren't really running out. It's really important when you're running in a melee comp that you're moving as like a cohesive unit. So melee, staying in melee is really good, and then as a tank, now I should be actively thinking about, like, okay, if I was in the melee's position right now, am I positioned in a comfortable location for them? And if the boss is right next to poop and they can't move around the boss freely, then I'm in a bad position. And I'm gonna do my best to try to alleviate that pain. Now it's nice because this boss lends itself to allowing you to do that because you're going to be constantly soaking these orbs. But I want to always make sure that there is a nice little canal around the boss that players can use and not have to worry about like standing in poop. Now this unfortunately is kind of an unfortunate spot to be in. The knockback there, luckily it looked like they kind of stacked there and moved as a group, which is really really good. And again, just trying to give my group space to use whenever possible. Now, right here, it's really scary. I am at 7 stacks. I unfortunately soaked late on one set and then early on the next set, which meant that I never actually ended up dropping my stacks. Again, I'm trying to move the boss back to the center so people can look at how we drop that really clean next to like old poop. Once this frontal goes off, I will then be moving the boss, not just to soak, but to also give my melee a little bit of room here. And then I'm going to walk him into the poop because I'm a freaking idiot. So I'm going to soak that last rope because it looked dangerous, and then we should be good. So again, they're next to old poop, and then the boss will go down. So our split there was 21:30-ish, 35. And we are looking about 30 seconds ahead of our best timer. And our best timer was only 3 seconds over the key. So this is going to be a pretty big pull. It's going to be 3 Mana Fiends, 3 Battle Axes, a lot of tank damage, a lot of casters, a lot of group damage. So this pull is actually pretty scary. So I'm going to be committing my Black Ox here. I'm going to be going into that cycle of like Keg Breath, Blackout, Keg Breath, Blackout, Keg Breath, like whatever I need to do damage. Stomp is a little undertuned, honestly. So when you Blackout Kick takes a little bit of a backseat during Ox if you can get Keg Breath resets using Purifying Brew and additional brews like Black Ox Brew, Celestial Infusion, Fortifying Brew, etc. And so now we are just trying to like do as much damage as humanly possible. This is actually kind of low for me. I think I'm only at, unless the damage meter is bugged. No, normally I do a little bit above 200k on this pull, but maybe I didn't. No, I used pot. That's so weird. Maybe I peaked and I'm just like falling off. So 2 battle axes left. We are just walking with these men. To try to save time. Like there's no reason for us to like stand still, then mount, and then run even further. If we can make movement while in a pack, then we're going to do so. All right, we're at 92.61% count. We have 1 pull left to do, and then we're going to be doing skip. So the way that we do this is I actually go to the left here, and I pull these Echo Knights. There's 2 of them conveniently placed. They are linked, so once I tag one with Crackling Jade, the other one will come over. We get kicks. We position kind of over here in like the middle of the path, giving us room to dodge these guys. Now, one thing I do that's really unique here is I place down an Ox statue, and I use it to speed provoke mobs to move them out quickly. So if a whirlwind spawns or whatever it's called, and I need to move all of the mobs out of that away to give my melee room, I will then use an AoE like taunt there. Now, unfortunately, they were a little bit far away. I didn't want to commit the global. One other thing to note, this dungeon moves so fast, it's like hard to keep up with everything. The Arcane Smash is big AoE damage. Most likely, it will end up killing a player if they are not topped, or if a bolt goes out at the same time. So when you have those invokers up, when you see the Arcane Smash cast, commit a AoE stop or a kick to those mobs. Stunning is a little bit more consistent because you can hit every mob at the same time with one person CC versus having like coordinated kicks. But making sure you commit a leg sweep when you see that overlap is really good, and your healer, whether they know it or not, will thank you. And then finally, we drop Windrush, and now we're just gonna Rogue's gonna Shroud, and we're just gonna go. Now this got a little sketchy here. I should have Tiger's Lusted right now while I was away from everything, but everyone else is still really fast, and for some reason I'm slow as fuck. So I told my Rogue like, "Hey, come back. I'm behind." And so the Shroud fades like right now. So perfect. Doragosa, this boss is a bitch, but this is a strategy that we've figured out. We are gonna pull the boss all the way to the entrance of the room. So the orbs, Blizzard has done a recent update where they actually show the way that the orbs are going to come out, but they have a max range. They disappear. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the center of the room, so we don't even have to think about the orbs in the middle, and we're just going to, basically, the idea is that we want to drop as a little, we want to play super clean with our positioning on these first like little rifts that spawn for the first like minute and a half, 2 minutes of the fight. After that, the fight then becomes free because they only last for 2 minutes when they get dropped. And so the orbs in the middle of the room will despawn after like 2 minutes or so. So as long as you can play clean for the first little bit, it's going to be really good. But you can see the orbs coming from behind me. They fall off. They fade. Look at this. So here they come and they disappear. And so now we never have to worry about that. And I dropped my first one way at the entrance of the room. So we're only worrying about that one currently with our current position. After the second power vacuum, the second suck in, you're then going to move to kind of like this statue. This is the most dangerous part of the fight if you do this correctly. Once the middle of the room is clear, we're going to be looking so good. So this Astral Blast is going to go on me. I'm going to roll out towards this old rift, drop it, try to run back, and then unfortunately I also get targeted with Energy Bomb. For some reason, I like getting targeted by Energy Bomb as a tank, but it also is really obnoxious for like uptime. And unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention there, so I ended up dropping that rift. We get sucked in. Luckily, the orbs didn't spawn from that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to basically pull him. Yeah, we gotta watch this one that I'm pinging. We're gonna pull him as through. So again, most dangerous part of the fight for the next 10 seconds. We just need to be super clean here. Astral Blast is coming out. I'm just playing it safe and just like running away. And then my group is watching those arrows right behind them. This will be the last set that come out, I believe. And then, or maybe one more set, and then they should disappear here. So 2 minutes in, you can see those rifts are gonna actually fade, and they are now not in play anymore. So now, the goal with this fight is to always drop any rifts behind. You drop rifts when you hit 3 stacks. There are random arcane missiles that happen on the fight that'll randomly hit a DPS player, so you have to be cautious of that. As a tank, you have to worry about 2 things. This Astral Blast Tank Buster, which is going out right now. I'm going to drop it there. And you also have to worry about Energy Bomb. Energy Bomb can target the tank. Now, we're very fortunate to be playing with Double Warrior because our warriors can always Spell Reflect. And when they Spell Reflect, they don't gain a stack and they reflect it back onto the boss. So like I said, we're always going to just be dragging far. The more room you can create as a tank from those rifts, the better. Because what's killed us in the past, especially when we got to this fight with enough time, is when we get sucked in by the power vacuum. There's like a rift right next to boss, and the orb goes right underneath his hitbox and just kills us. And like the entire group gets just like one shot. That has happened so many times that we've just been so frustrated with this dungeon. So new rift spawns, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go really far in a second. I have to obviously step out that way and to drop my rift, and then we're going to just be trying to book it. So now we're always just moving clockwise around the room, or yeah, clockwise, yeah, in this oval-shaped room. And that's the fight. Like once you get over that like 2-minute hump in the fights, it becomes really easy. So start of the fight for the first like 40 seconds, pretty good. Minute roughly to the 2-minute mark, really hard. Focus up, lock in, and then at the end, it's pretty trivial. And that key pushed me over 3,400 in the first week of the season. This was such a fun run. I'm probably going to post like the live version of it over on my Patreon page for free. So if you want to check it out there, ad free, you can. You don't have to be a Patreon member to, go over there, but go check out my Patreon page if you like, for kind of like the clip of us actually calming through this run. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll leave routes down below, talent build also down below. And then I think I said I will do one more thing down below as well. And I don't remember. Oh, I'm going to have an Algethar first pull breakdown video coming out either just before this or just after this. So I will link that down there as well. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. And yeah, fuck. Why am I messing up? All right, bye.